What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to Chronocord Pro Wrestling and our countdown of the top 5 greatest tag teams in WWE history. I'm C-Dub, joined by my close, personal, longtime friend, J.C.
Hey, what's up, C-Dub?
J.C., I know you're a WrestleManiac, much like myself, from back in the days of stars like Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Sting, and the Nature Boy himself, Ric Flair. But today, we're focusing on the tag teams.
That's right, C-Dub. Before we get into the countdown, let's take a look at some of the honorable mentions that did not make the top 5 cut.
The Wild Samoans. Brothers Afa and Sika Anawai terrorized the tag team ranks of the World Wrestling Federation through the 70s and 80s, capturing the gold on 3 occasions, for a total of over 400 days as champions.
Demolition. Axe and Smash captured their first of 3 WWF Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania 4, holding the titles for a record 478 days, breaking the record of the legendary Valiant Brothers.
Money Incorporated. The $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase and the Taxman Erwin R. Shyster, IRS. Money Inc. bankrolled their way to 3 WWF Tag Team Championships, with title victories over the Legion of Doom, Steiner Brothers, and the Natural Disasters.
And now, C-Dub, let's take a look at number 5 on the list of greatest WWF tag teams.
Coming in at number 5, a 3-way tie between 6 men forever linked in the annals of WWE history and on this list. The Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys.
The late 1990s Attitude Era in the WWF ushered in fierce competition for the tag team gold, and no match was more fierce than the tables, ladders, and chairs match.
The 3 teams faced off in some of the most breathtaking, death-defying matches in WrestleMania history, at WrestleMania 2000 in Anaheim, and again at WrestleMania 17 in Houston. Combined, Edge and Christian, Matt and Jeff, and the Dudleys were tag team champions a staggering 24 times, and each had further success upon going solo in singles competition.
Continuing on to number 4, a team who could bring paralyzing fear to their opponents and WWF fans to their feet with just 3 words.
What a rush! Hawk, Animal, the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom. Spiked shoulder pads and all, the LOD came onto the WWF tag team scene fresh out of their legendary tenure, running roughshod through the National Wrestling Alliance in the summer of 1990, immediately setting their sights on Axe, Smash, and Crush of Demolition.
1 year later, in 1991, Hawk and Animal captured the WWF Tag Team Championship, making them the first to win tag team gold in the AWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, and WWF, the 3 dominant pro wrestling promotions in the United States in the 1980s.
The Legion of Doom would leave the WWF in 1992 and spend the next 5 years in both Japan and World Championship Wrestling. However, in early 1997, Hawk and Animal would return to the World Wrestling Federation, picking up where they left off and capturing their second WWF Tag Team Championship later that year. Often imitated and never duplicated, Hawk and Animal are widely considered one of the greatest tag teams in pro wrestling history.
C-Dub, at number 3, 2 degenerates who would capture their first of many WWF Tag Team Championships from the Legion of Doom in 1997.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the New Age Outlaws formed as 2 singles competitors looking for a new direction and found unprecedented success, winning 5 WWF Tag Team Championships in their first run as a team.
The Outlaws would reunite in 2013 for their first televised WWE match in 13 years, and a year later would defeat Cody Rhodes and Goldust for their historic 6th Tag Team Championship, setting a record for longest time between reigns in WWE history. The team is also notable for featuring the second most successful tag team competitor in WWE history, Billy Gunn, who captured a total of 11 tag team championships in his career with 3 different partners.
Today, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn work behind the scenes with WWE, occasionally competing in special attraction bouts and bringing decades of experience and ring wisdom to the stars of tomorrow.
No tag team could make the color pink look as tough as our number 2 greatest WWF tag team, The Anvil and the Hitman.
Brothers-in-law Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart came to the WWF as singles competitors fresh out of Stu Hart's famed Stampede Wrestling territory. Bret in the summer of 1984 and Jim in January of 85. After their solo ventures proved to be less than stellar, Bret suggested to WWF management that he be teamed with Neidhart, and the newly christened Hart Foundation were off and running. After being the final 2 competitors eliminated by Andre the Giant in the 20-man Battle Royal at WrestleMania 2 in 1986, less than 1 year later, the Hart Foundation would defeat fellow brother-in-law Davey Boy Smith and his partner Dynamite Kid, the British Bulldogs, for their first WWF Tag Team Championship in Tampa at the Sundome.
After failing to recapture the gold in their rematch versus Strikeforce and being double-crossed by manager Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, the Hart Foundation became fan favorites, battling the likes of the Rougeau brothers, Demolition, the Brain Busters, and fellow fan favorites Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty, the Rockers.
At SummerSlam 1990, the Hart Foundation would once again reach the Promised Land, defeating Demolition's Smash and Crush in a 2 out of 3 falls classic. They would go on to hold the titles for over 200 days, losing them at WrestleMania 7 in 1991 to the Nasty Boys, managed by who else? Jimmy Hart. 6 years later, the duo would join forces with Owen, brother of Bret, Stampede Wrestling trainee Brian Pillman, and brother-in-law the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith to form the stable known as the Hart Foundation, leading the charge against fan favorites like Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
The Hart Foundation are one of the greatest tag teams in WWF history. Before we reveal who topped our list at number 1, let's take a look at a few more teams who didn't make the cut.
King of Hearts Owen Hart and the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. These Hart Foundation stablemates and brothers-in-law were the premier team of the WWF's new generation, backed by the Louisville Lip, Jim Cornette.
The Acolytes Protection Agency, APA. Farouk and Bradshaw united as Hell's Henchmen under The Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness in 1999 and dominated legendary teams like the Hardy Brothers and the Dudleys on their way to 3 tag team championships.
The nefarious team of Mr. Fuji and Professor Toru Tanaka. The 2 high school buddies would go on to hold the tag team championship for nearly a full year during their first reign as champions in 1972, and go on to 2 more in 73 and 77.
Alright, C-Dub, here it is. The greatest tag team in WWE history. Coming in at number 1, these 2 lads from Leeds proved that their bark was equally as bad as their bite, and weren't afraid to bust up some bones along the way. Davey Boy Smith and Dynamite Kid, the British Bulldogs.
Cousins Tom Billington and young David Smith, Davey Boy as he was known to pals, made their ring debuts together on the legendary United Kingdom wrestling program World of Sport, and were recruited by Bruce of the legendary Hart Wrestling family to further their training in the harsh Canadian Rockies of Calgary in Stampede Wrestling.
After a series of feuds between the 2 found them competing in Canada, as well as in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1983 and 84 for junior heavyweight singles gold, the British Bulldogs were brought to the WWF by owner Vince McMahon, along with their brothers-in-law, the Hart Foundation.
The Bulldogs would use their combination of brute strength, mat-based technical wrestling expertise, and high-flying offense to capture their first, and surprisingly only, WWF Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania 2 with the guidance of Captain Lou Albano and fellow countryman Ozzy Osbourne in their corner.
The Bulldogs would lose the titles to Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart almost a year later after Dynamite Kid suffered a legitimate injury in a late 1986 match versus Don Morocco and Bob Orton Jr. An infamous backstage fight between Dynamite and the Rougeau brothers, along with disagreements over contract stipulations, led to the Bulldogs leaving the WWF in the fall of 1988.
While the Bulldogs would return to the ring in Stampede Wrestling, as well as make another few tours in Japan, including a 5-star classic match against Joe and Dean, the Malenko brothers, the two cousins would split in 1990, never to team again. Although they didn't have as much longevity as other teams on our countdown, the British Bulldogs were bar none the most feared team on the list, and perhaps the most athletically gifted. The required viewing list for fans of tag team wrestling includes a ton of Bulldogs matches, and both Davey and Dynamite were successful in singles competition after their split. Kind of makes you wonder what would have happened had the two cousins been able to settle their differences, avoid injuries, and compete against the best the WWF had to offer in the late 80s and early 90s.
That's it, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this countdown of the top 5 tag teams in WWE history. Please subscribe by clicking the link seen on screen right now. Check out chronocord.com and be sure to listen to our original music on SoundCloud. For Chronocord Pro Wrestling and my co-host C-Dub, this is JC. Don't forget to kick out at 2.